Hey everybody, it's Gabby and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm gonna do a little story time for you guys, and I was in my apartment like setting up my tripod in my living room and getting ready to film, and I was like, wait a second. I had one of those random moments where I remember that I live next to a haunted battlefield, so why not bring you out here to tell you? So I've brought you here to tell you the story of the fox, which is truly my wildest paranormal experience. I still, to this day, have no doubt in my mind that it happened. When I close my eyes, I can see it so vividly. But at the same time, there's like so many questions that come up, and it doesn't make sense, but I've kind of come to the conclusion that it doesn't really have to. I told this story for the first time on my podcast a few weeks ago. I felt like there was more that I wanted to say, which is why I'm making this video. But yeah, for years there's been this like voice inside my head telling me to hold on to it for a little bit, to keep it to myself and try to understand it, process it on my own, and then I would know when the right time to share it would be. And it feels like that time is now. Living in Gettysburg, being in this place that inspires me so much and has helped me process and to learn so much about my spirituality, my connection to the paranormal, all of it. I feel so ready and excited to tell you this story. And despite my current location, this actually happened in Salem, Massachusetts, not Gettysburg. But I like this idea that I get to travel and gather these stories and then come back here and bring them all together. So now let's get into it. I've never heard of anyone else having an experience quite like this one, which I think it's why it feels so big and important to me. I don't know. I need to stop like leading up to it and just tell you. I was in Salem. This was a few years ago, and we did a whole ghost tour and like walked around the town. Nothing paranormal really happened. Like, it was obviously very cool to be there, to learn about the history. And it was obviously a place I'd wanted to go for a long time, so it meant a lot to just be there. But then we get to the end of our ghost tour, and we're all like sitting along this rock wall, and the way that I reference it in my memory, it's like this was next to the visitor center, I believe, and then there's like a grassy area. There were little stone pathways like for people to walk on, obviously, and then the building along the side had arches. But this like grassy area was completely dark. There was maybe like a street light or something on the other side, but it was dark, it was empty, it was quiet. And we're all sitting along this wall facing our tour guide, who's standing in front of this grassy area, just giving his final remarks. I went back to Salem back in November, and I think that was the coolest part of being back there, was just to be in this spot again and to really compare it to how I remembered it. I mean, it was very similar, but still it made the whole experience feel more real. And as I talk about it, you'll see why like it just means a lot to me, and the timing of being able to go back and relive it meant a lot as well. So I'll insert a little video of like what this spot looks like. But yeah, we're sitting there, the tour guide's talking, and all of a sudden I saw a fox. And I know that sounds simple, but this was not a normal fox. It was not a real fox. It resembled a fox enough that that's what I knew it was. But the best way I can describe it is it looked like it was on fire. I guess maybe I saw its aura, which I've never experienced that before, but it was just this like humming energy. It had orange and gold and just bright white hot light coming off of it, emanating off of it. And I kind of associate that with flames, that it just looked like it was on fire. It came from the right side of this grassy area. It was running to the left. The tour guide completely disappeared. He was like in the center of my vision, and all of a sudden he just disappeared. Everybody else that I was with was not there. It was me, it was this fox, and that was it. I was so honed in on this being, this energy, whatever you want to call it, that nothing else mattered. And I think I try to explain how I felt in this moment. It was like I knew what I was seeing. I knew it with every ounce of my being. There was no doubt, no question in my mind. Yet it felt so natural. I was so nonchalant about it. It was like, oh yeah, like that fox, like, is on fire. And it doesn't make sense. It was just like this wave of like calm and resolution came over me that it all just made sense. I've also never felt such an energetic pull towards something. Like, when I say it felt like me and this fox were the only thing to exist, like it felt like there was a string between us, like pulling us together. And then all of a sudden, it just disappeared. It was gone. And aside from like the fox itself disappearing, it felt like in that moment the light was like taken out of the world. Like, it was nighttime before this happened. The fox came and just kind of lit everything up, and then it all was dark again. One of my friends that was with me leaned over and she's like, Gabby, what did you just see? You look like you saw a ghost. And I was like, did you not see that? Like, no, nobody else saw this. I was the only person that saw this fox. In being brought back to the present moment, that's when thoughts started coming back to me, like rationalize all of this. Like, first thing was, where did the fox go? It was in the middle of this flat, empty space when it just disappeared. And if it was to run behind something, it would have like come out the other side and I could have seen it, but it was just gone. So then I looked to the direction where the fox came from, and there was a couple walking two dogs. And the dogs weren't like remotely the same color as the fox, so I knew I didn't like mistake them. Also, they were like far enough away from where the fox had gotten to. But all of this happened within a matter of seconds. It felt like time slowed down, but really thinking about it, like, this was all in the same moment. So I'm thinking, like, the fox would have run straight through them. But where the fox came from when I first saw it, those people weren't there. They just weren't there. And also, like, I know it wasn't a real fox, but if it was, I feel like the people would at least be looking at it, or the dogs would have been reacting in some way. But they weren't. Like, the fox would have run straight through those people. I don't know. And the light confused me too. Like, just, it looked like it had this spotlight on it that was just drawing all of my focus to it. And then, like, it's just dark again. I don't know how to describe it. It was just the coolest thing. And again, something that when I close my eyes, I see it so clearly. So after the tour, the friend that had asked, like, what'd you see, asked again, like, wait, you saw a fox? I didn't see that. And I tried to explain it a little bit. I was like, yeah, it was so weird. Like, I had never seen at that point like an apparition of anything. So I was like, maybe that's what it was. Like, a ghost fox? It's possible, I guess. And so I tried to explain it a little bit, but I was still so taken aback by the whole thing that I didn't know how to put it into words. It wasn't until we were back home that I started doing research about if foxes have any connection to Salem that would have led to it being manifested there, and like Salem was the reason this happened. Or, you know, looking into foxes and their spiritual meaning, if there was any purpose that it came to me specifically. And there was a lot of information that I got from all of that. So first of all, foxes are known as one of the witches' animals. So just being in Salem and having that connection was very interesting, because obviously Salem is synonymous with the Salem witch trials, which, you know, now we know that was not based on actual witchcraft. It was a time of hysteria and just a devastating piece of history. But now Salem has kind of reclaimed the word witch and is a place of freedom and a variety of spiritual expressions. So I don't know if like that environment of openness and that flow of energy had anything to do with my ability to finally like see something like this, to open me up. Also, foxes appear in folklore across many different places and cultures with very important ties to spirituality, which if you want to learn more about that, you can check out my podcast episode. I'll put it up here. But the main takeaway, the thing that I've pulled into my own practice and reference in times of doubt for myself, is that foxes come to you in challenging times. Foxes themselves are very intelligent, quick-thinking creatures, and they're said to come to you in times of challenge to show you that you have the power to look within yourself, find the answers you need, and trust your intuition to work through those situations. I think the fox, it's taught me a lot about myself, because I think back to that moment of being in this very in-between space of trying to think of questions and rationalizing it, but also accepting it and believing it as this sign or message from the universe. I don't know. In my paranormal journey, in my spiritual journey, it's helped me to just kind of have a belief in magic, to accept signs and symbols and just kind of take it. This moment really did spark my spiritual journey, which I see as very much coinciding with my paranormal research and all of the different places that I go to, everything I learn from the different locations I go to. The reason for that is the fox became a symbol of hope, healing, and magic for me. My trip to Salem was actually right before my mom got sick, right before she was diagnosed with cancer. Throughout her treatment, we started to see foxes all the time. Anytime we needed it, even if we didn't know we needed it. There'd be random pictures of foxes on her hospital doors. It could be different hospital rooms, different medical facilities. Wherever we were, there would just be a fox on the door. Or we would be driving if it was a hard day and a fox would run in the road in front of us. All different things like that happened. And yes, there are such things as coincidences, and maybe it's one of those things where you're thinking about something more so you notice it. I don't know. But sometimes it just feels like divine timing, like it's meant to happen. And this is crazy. This happened a few weeks after my mom passed away. And I still can't believe that this happened. I wish I had taken pictures because it just feels so unbelievable to me. But I went back to a retail job that I was working at the time, and at first it was really nice to have, sorry, there's a very noisy bird. At the time it was nice to have some normalcy in my life, to have a routine, but it quickly became just very overwhelming, and this thing that was causing me a lot of stress in my early grief. So I pull into work one day and I did not want to go in. I was 10 minutes early, so I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna park as far away from the store as I possibly can at the end of the parking lot so nobody can see me, and I'm just gonna sit in my car and disassociate and pretend that nothing else exists for this moment. So I'm sitting in my car, and eventually it gets to the point where I'm like, okay, I should probably start to walk inside now. I need to face reality. And then this car pulls up next to me, and I remember being so annoyed in the moment, which I shouldn't have been, but I was very annoyed. I was just pissed at the world, so of course I'm gonna be mad at the random man that pulls up next to me. But I'm thinking, okay, this parking lot is mostly empty. It's the middle of a weekday. There's nobody here, and I parked in the very last possible spot. Why did you come park next to me out of all of these spots? But he did. And he just got out of his car and left, and I'm like, okay, I need to go. So I take a deep breath, get out of my car, and I'm not kidding you. There was a stuffed animal fox in this guy's passenger seat, propped up against the window, looking up at me. I cannot make this up. And I had to laugh in that moment, in this moment of me being just sad and angry with the world. I had to laugh. I just stood there. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna take it as a win, because are you kidding me? A stuffed animal fox in this guy's passenger seat, this random man who doesn't know who I am, and who randomly pulls up next to me in this whole empty parking lot, and he has a fox in his car that is, no joke, up against the window, like looking into my eyes. Yeah. I think it's really easy, if anyone can relate to this, like being in your grief and having lost someone that means a lot to you, and like you get little moments where you're like, was that a sign from them? I don't know. And you just question it, and it's hard. But sometimes you just have to believe it and to take it, accept it, and also realize like it's more important how you feel about it and what that means to you than like what it is. Like for this moment, yes, this man could have just had a fox in his car. Was it so weird that I couldn't have written it better? Yes, but I stood there and I just kind of took a deep breath. I was like, okay, this is like my mom's way of telling me she's here, she sees me, and she knows I really don't want to go do the shift right now, but I'm going to do it, and I'm going to be okay. And I am okay. So that's the story of the fox. And I'm sure I'll talk about this more in the future as I learn more about it, but that's where I am for now. Like I said, it doesn't always make sense to me. I know it sounds crazy. I probably wouldn't believe it either, but it happened, and I'm just gonna embrace the whole unknown aspect of it. If there's any message I can share from this for everyone in the paranormal community, I think it's just to approach your life and investigations with curiosity and openness. It's so important to ask questions and to try to understand things and debunk if you're able to, but there is this element of it of just like believing in the possibility and being open to that possibility. I told you that I love nature-based hauntings. It's my favorite to research and investigate, just because I think it makes me more receptive to the energy. I feel so much more aligned being in nature, which is why it's cool that I'm able to tell you this story from the woods of Gettysburg, because I love it here. I feel like myself here, and I want to talk more about spirituality as I learn more about it and delve into it for myself, but I think overall it can feel like this thing that is so big and undefined that it's unattainable. But if I've learned anything so far, it's that spirituality and communication with spirit, that connection to the other side, if you will, it can happen in very unexpected, sometimes mundane ways, and you never know what might happen. If I'm feeling disconnected from spirit, I find myself coming back to places like this, just being in nature, surrounded by the natural elements. It makes me so much more aware of my own physicality, like my breath, my even like temperature. I feel more aware of my body, and I feel my emotions very physically. That's always just been part of me and my anxiety, but it helps me to process, to just have slow moments like this where I'm really aligned with mind and body. So that's been a critical part of my own spirituality journey. And if you're interested in exploring your own spirituality, like I said, it's going to happen in very unexpected ways. It doesn't have to look like anybody else's. And just be curious, be open to learning new things. Thank you so much for watching and for giving me a space to tell my stories. I will see you all next week with a brand new video. Bye, everybody.